We love games, we really, really do. But sometimes, just sometimes, they do things that make us want to scoop our own eyes out. Here are 7 things we wish games would stop doing.
Even the best games have those bits, the sections that fall into trope territory and you know exactly what's demanded of you. Sometimes that's great news, finally getting your hands on that irritating boss, solving a tricky puzzle that's completely intended to make you feel ridiculously smart.
But then there are the other tropes, the escort missions, the bits where you're left hanging upside down, the small problem of not having any actual choice. Here are the 7 things we wish games would stop doing. First off, no. Games, no. What are you thinking? No one, and I mean no one, wants to shoot a dog, especially a good one, which is, of course, all of them.
And yet, here we are. Dog murderers, the lot of us. Yes, you should feel guilty. On a less moral note, dog enemies are just annoying. Let's face it, they're a nightmare to kill. They move too fast and they're already gnawing on your arm before you've even had time to raise your weapon for some canine murder. Resident Evil infamously started the trend and they're still doing it now. Tomb Raider is especially guilty of making Lara a dog killer, and Destiny 2 added dog-style enemies that really, really hate you. Even Wolfenstein gets in on the action and stars the unholy combo trinity of a dog, a robot and a Nazi. Awful.
Don't worry, Monty, you can listen again soon. It gets better, I promise.
The good news is that there's plenty of games that get it right and make man's best friend just that. Fallout has dog meat, Far Cry 5 has the best boy Boomer, who's somehow totally different from those other dogs, and Metal Gear Solid 5 has D-Dog, complete with eye patch. And no, I haven't forgotten about you, Dinky D.
Dinky D's alive! Our theory would prevail. He's a survivor, that one.
Life is all about choice. Coke or Pepsi. How many cheeseburgers is a respectable number to order? Whether you chose to turn off this video after the dog disappeared. Please stay, he might come back. To paraphrase Jurassic Park though, sometimes in games, we think we have control, but it turns out it's all an illusion.
Given that so many games tell us that our choices truly matter, but also the fact that development is a long and lengthy process, making more than a couple of endings often impossible, video game storytelling likes us to feel like we have a say. Where Season 1 of Telltale Games The Walking Dead feels like we actually make a difference to who lives or dies, Mass Effect 3's 3 binary colour choice options for the end of the epic RPG franchise felt a bit like being hit in the face with a Reaper.
Of course, there are only so many different ways that a game can end, but when it's too binary or obvious, it becomes a bit of a problem. The red pill or the blue pill? Choose. Go on, it will definitely affect the way the rest of this video goes. Honest.
One game that gets choice both very right and very wrong is interestingly Bioshock. Yep, prepare for some spoilers, but by its very nature, Ken Levine's masterpiece is a fascinating exercise in not having any autonomy at all. You do have the choice of harvesting Adam from the Little Sisters throughout the game. There's only 3 results on offer, depending on whether you kill more than one, less than one, or every single one. There are no shades of grey here, making this completely binary choice seem ludicrously stark compared to the actual story of the game, in which it turns out that you've been enslaved and never really had a choice at all. Put simply, the latter works far better as a comment on the illusion of video game narrative autonomy than on one attempt to make us merely feel like we matter. Playing games is empowering. They let us do things we'd never manage in real life, so it's jarring then when you go from legendary heroic protagonist to head buried in the sand. I'm talking about those moments in games where you're reduced to dragging your mauled body through a level or running around with your hands bound behind your back. We did not sign up for this.
TV tropes cause this controllable helplessness, which, incidentally, is also shorthand for my personal life. And I'm oversharing. There are obviously moments where this makes narrative sense, but it's become so overused that it's now annoying. It's not that we don't like being helpless, it's just that escaping isn't fun.
The forced injury bit of a game is the worst offender. It was great when Modern Warfare did it in shock and awe, but I'll die happy if I never play another game again where I drag my shattered hero along with his one remaining unbroken finger. But some games do get it right. Lara's impression of a human burrito at the start of Tomb Raider, for example, was a great way of setting the tone for the rest of the game.
It's gonna hurt.
So when it's done right, it's great. When it's done wrong, it's the gaming equivalent of me presenting the rest of this video tied to a chair with Monty trying to chew through the ropes. Which, no, we're not doing. No. No, we're not doing it. Come on, Monty. Yeah. Help me out, come on. Yes, Monty, yep. Come on, Monty, yes. Yeah, just pull the rope, just pull the rope, Monty. Before we get started on this section, spoilers. Spoilers as far as the eye can see, because the second you start talking about fake deaths in games, you know, you kind of ruin the whole point of them.
We're talking about those moments in games where the story makes you believe that one of your beloved characters has been killed. Mass Effect 2, for instance, starts out with Commander Shepard dying, which of course we didn't believe for a single second.
So it's not so much the trope itself that's the problem, more that it's rarely convincing. And it also makes us distrustful when games decide to properly kill off our favourite characters. And the worst offender of all, the post-credits "they're not really dead at all" ending reveal. Please, stop.
And again, we have to caveat this with the fake deaths in games that are actually great. The cyanide pill in Metal Gear Solid 3 works so well because it lets you fake death on your own terms. And the Joker twist in Arkham City just helps set up Batman's raw emotional trauma for Arkham Knight.
But please, games, stop toying with our emotions. We're more delicate than we look.
Is there truly anyone in the world who doesn't hold their breath during every single swimming section of a game? I'd like to meet that person and just scream the word "how" at them over and over again. Swimming levels are, let's face it, utterly miserable, stress you out, and always involve an oxygen bar.
And no, I'm not talking about the fun kind where you put a tube up your nose and feel a bit giddy afterwards. This oxygen bar is going to glow red very soon, and your favourite character is going to make those awful struggling noises as you desperately kick for the surface.
And yet, developers still insist on attempting to drown our favourite heroes in an assortment of perilous waters. Assassin's Creed Black Flag doesn't just force you to attempt swimming stealth as you evade sharks, but even throws in air supply barrels that are always just out of reach.
While everything else on this list is acceptable if done right, there's no part of swimming levels that is anything less than horrible. There's always stress, there's always panic, and there's always that pulsing feeling in your brain as you too gradually run out of oxygen.
Which means the good news is that everyone is equally guilty. Sonic's bubbles are a liquidy hellmouth, Tomb Raider 2 has whole levels around a sunken wreck, Sea of Thieves sees you holding your breath for treasure and there's always the worry of drowning your chickens, and even Elder Scrolls gets it wrong. Only Rayman Origins stands as the least worst, but in a world of burst lungs and collapsed eardrums, that might not be an accolade. Shh, go away Abzu, you're ruining this section. Picture the scene. You're Batman. You've just beaten up 30 goons in one flurry of fists, Kevlar and shattered shins. It's a carnival of fractures, a showcase of dislocations, and then the screen cuts to black, a cutscene starts rolling, and suddenly you're being overpowered by a £160 clown in bespoke tailoring. What happened to being invincible? What happened to being Batman?
This one is called cutscene incompetence, the feeling that your hero becomes useless the moment they're out of your control, and it undermines everything you've worked for so far. Most of the time, the frustration comes from being bested by goons that you'd previously been beating up, but there is a different, more subtle version of this.
At the start of Oblivion, for example, you experience narrative paralysis. That's a phrase I just made up that describes being rooted in place when Emperor Uriel Septim is attacked. Admittedly, this is just in case you intervene, save his life, and accidentally end the Oblivion crisis before it's even started, but it could still be handled more elegantly. And we should also point out that the opposite of this is also rubbish. Games that make you seem more powerful in the cinematics than you are when you actually play.
And if that all sounds like I'm demanding the moon on a stick, well, maybe I am. But truthfully, all I want is for Batman to be as Batman-y in the cutscenes as he is when I'm dropping convicted criminals on their heads.
Video games are for running, for jumping, for climbing, not, and I repeat, not, for walking someone to work. Yes, escort quests, I'm coming for you next. No one wants to walk in a game where you've previously been leaping off tall buildings, using actual magic to battle mythical creatures, and just generally causing chaos.
Maybe it's so bad because normally it's nice to walk with your friends. You can have a chat and not have to worry about them dying, sending you back miles to the start of your walk when they do something stupid.
And they're all so guilty of it. Assassin's Creed, the Elder Scrolls series, Far Cry, even Dead Rising, where you should be lawn mowing zombies like you're edging undead borders, forces you to drag frail survivors along for the ride. Yes, that is an elderly and overweight couple to make you feel even worse.
Fantastic!
If you can't think of anything worse than escort missions, what about escort missions where your escortee walks at a pace somewhere between your walking and your running speed?
Like wandering with a friend who has slightly longer legs, your once joyous video game experience becomes a test of your ability to speed up and slow down. The Assassin's Creed series is probably the guiltiest of this, but thankfully at least it now has an animation that autopilots your pace to stop you stopping and starting like you're stuck in a traffic jam. Could we go on? Almost certainly yes, but we'll end it there because A, we don't want to seem too negative, and B, it's time for Monty's afternoon walk. Let us know your own personal pet peeves in the comments below, pat that like button if you think Monty is the bestest boy, and subscribe to Logitech G for more videos just like this one.
Monty? Anyone? I'm still here. Guys? Oh, hell.